the Denver Century Ride for the last several years, working with Bruce. And I am also the registrar for that event this year.
Oh, wow. Great. Great. Erica?
Hey, I'm Erica. I am the director for Bike MS Colorado. This will be our 38th year, actually, here in Colorado, which is exciting. I'm excited to kind of hear on this call today anyway about the gravel, like the conversion of road riders to gravel, because we're looking to do a refresh kind of on our route. So I'm very curious to hear everyone's thoughts on that. So.
Great. Now, I'll go back. We do have two from Bicycle Colorado. I want to just say on March 8th, they will come and kind of do a presentation to us on the new event program. So, because they really have Chris has just started. I've already inundated him with all sorts of, your calendar's not up to date, and what about this, and what about that? So I drill him. I've worked with Chris a lot, so I drill him a lot. So I just want to say that he just started, and I know he feels kind of behind the eight ball. So we want to be a little kind to him on this call, but he'll have to handle everything we have on March 8th. Okay, so Chris, you want to tell us a little bit about you?
Thanks, Dee. So yeah, fair enough. Yeah, so just started. So this is a new initiative at Bicycle Colorado to support both competitive and non-competitive events throughout the state. So kind of a big mandate, kind of a big dream, piggybacking on the efforts of a lot of people, obviously, over years. I've known Dee for a long time. I used to run the competitive nonprofit association here in Colorado. And then I've also got a lot of involvement with non-competitive events. I was with the Tour de Cure for about 10 years in some capacity because my son's diabetic. So it's interesting to hear. I'm glad to hear that's getting rebooted again. I know you guys had a tough couple of years with the COVID, and I was up in Summit last year helping out at First Classic Day 2 at 8 stations. So that was fantastic. If we can offer any help from Bicycle Colorado as far as with permitting agencies, please reach out to Pete. She is a legislative, and Dee knows Pete from way back, just a really great connection as far as trying to get things navigated when things pop up with agencies or municipalities. So we're just here to listen today. My coworker on this call is Hillary. She's awesome. She works with membership at Bicycle Colorado. And so in that capacity, she's going to get rolled into event support as well. It has been quite a bit. And yeah, that's a quick introduction. I've been a bike rider my whole life, basically. I still love it. I can't quit in whatever form, if it's mountain or road or cyclocross or just riding with kids. And I also help run the junior club in Golden. And we had last year we had about 320 kids go through our program. So it's a pretty significant effort as well. And it's just really gratifying to watch kids on bikes, obviously. And then through my stepdaughter, I'm involved also with the high school league. And then we're also trying to support that program here in Golden because like a lot of volunteer run organizations, they're running on fumes a lot of the time. So we do our best with the junior club to pick up some slack there. So that's the quick dirty bio. Yeah, thank you very much for having us here today. I'll let Hillary say hello as well. And we're just here to listen, and hopefully we have a little bit more concrete answers to Dee's penetrating questions by March 8th.
Oh, I have a whole nother long list coming to you today.
Yeah, I think Chris outlined things pretty well for us. I'm Hillary, I'm the membership manager at Bicycle Colorado. And one thing I'm excited about, I think one of these calls last year was like my first or second week of being in my role. And now that I have kind of a full year under my belt, looking forward to seeing how we can best support events, both in terms of logistics and then also like promotion, outreach, and kind of just getting kind of your name out there to people who are interested in doing various events. So yeah, I think Chris said it all, but definitely looking forward to working with you all in various ways over the next few months.
And if I can just give a quick testimonial to Bicycle Colorado. Yesterday during this this large meeting at the Webb building in Denver, Peep was there with us. And I felt like I was had my attorney by my side. She is a terrific force. She knows all the rules and regulations. She knows all the right people at the state level, at the county level, at the municipal level. And when they were telling us some things that they felt wouldn't be possible, she basically said, well, why wouldn't that be possible? Can we get a variance? And then as we were leaving, I was walking out with her. I said, thanks for being on my side. She says, I've already got my dander up. I'm going to be working on this for you. So Bicycle Colorado is a great advocate if you're preparing an event. They know what should be done and how it should be done. So many thanks, Chris and Hillary, to your guys and the organization.
Well, great. Well, I'm glad you're all on the call. A couple of things. So one of the things a lot of people have mentioned in the, water is a topic, and it's kind of it's a big one, is permitting. Permitting is just laborious. And I think as a group, we need to kind of look and see what we can do to kind of streamline the process and help the permitting organizations a little bit. Some of them are great. Like sometimes you go in to a county and they're like, okay, let's do this and this. I'm going to talk to this person. But then you go to Larimer County or Pitkin County or, Summit County can be very difficult. Lake County, Leadville can be very difficult. And so you get into these counties and they kind of struggle a little bit. And then everybody has a different application with questions that aren't really pertinent to what you're doing. You have to kind of like fill out like a building application or a curb cut application. And so I think one thing is maybe finding the right people to meet with. I was on a group and we did do a whole long document about permitting. Are you all familiar with that document? I will send it out. I mean, it's probably a little outdated now. I think that I was on that committee around 2018. And it was CSP, some of Chandler, myself, CDOT, some consulting group that I didn't quite get their role, but they put it together. So I will send it out. And I think I'll reach out to CDOT is probably the first place, and maybe the governor's office to say, who within the governor's office could help us navigate. So, because it's a lot of municipalities, there's just so many. And then with Bruce, so for Denver Century Ride, and it may have changed a little bit, but when I did that, there was 17 permits to navigate just through mostly Denver County, but then you have Golden and Jeffco. Jeffco can be pretty tough as well. So I don't know what your all thoughts are on that. The other problem with permitting, we're out there doing routes. Well, who can go do a route today? Who can say, oh yeah, this is the right road, or is this a good gravel road, and then when you start into gravel, and Aaron probably can speak to this, whose property, who owns that road? Because that's a whole nother issue of gravel, is you tend to go through private property. And so then is it Bureau of Land Management? Is it the Forest Service, which is a whole nother, headache. So it's a lot to navigate when somebody wants to, and how do we help each other, and how do we help streamline the process? And it's a arduous task to even think about, but we do have some big organizations that are kind of key to it, being CDOT, Forest Service, who we did meet with last year, and I think that they listened to us and we're making changes. I'm going to follow up with them now and make sure, because they were very understaffed. And CSP is also another good one. And maybe the ones, I did that regional look at where the bulk of rides are, which is also, so any thoughts there?
Well, I can speak to a little bit of my experience recently with CSP, CDOT, and the Forest Service down in Durango. And with my time at Ride the Rockies, with Ride the Rockies, I really didn't know what I was doing necessarily, but Forest Service was pretty difficult to deal with. And they kind of pushed us around and made us put aid stations in certain places, which is fine. But I came to learn that, like down in Durango, we just got Forest Service waived our permit. They said that you don't need one, because we just stayed on CDOT roads. And even though they passed through Forest Service, we intentionally put aid stations on, say, wide spots on the road that was controlled by CDOT. So the Forest Service finally came back to us and said, you know what, you really don't need our permit. And same with BLM. So I think sometimes we got to look at the fine print a little bit and really understand what a permit is needed for. So we just waived a ton of paperwork just by doing that. And we've been working with CSP. CDOT's been a little weird down there, but I know with Ride the Rockies, our permit came from CSP, not CDOT. And I mean, CSP is a part of CDOT. So I'm a little confused as to the jurisdiction of CDOT versus CSP personally, and who does issue those final permits.
Well, you get a permit from CSP, so that's separate from CDOT. You need to kind of talk to CDOT, and especially with like Ride the Rockies or Colorado Ride, they were instrumental on, like I always get an email every year like, hey, Dee, are you going to be near Durango? Are you going to be near Telluride? Are you going to be near Vail? We want to do construction on this. Are you going to be on that road? So CDOT knows all state construction. So you have to kind of connect with them, not necessarily as a permit. They don't necessarily provide a permit. What they do is kind of work with you on the road, so that's not a good road to be on because this is planned. And also they use all of their, say, Monarch Pass big virtual signs they put marketing out all over the place. On the coloradotrips.org, they'll put out, hey, Ride the Rockies or Colorado Ride or Courage Classic will be on Route 50, so you're aware. So they're really good at that information, and also resources. So they're like the good place to start with, to make sure first the roads are good, and then CSP, which is only the state roads. So, and then CDOT can really help in, making sure the roads have been swept, like the state roads, or, and I could say, I mean, like when I did Ride the Rockies, we had to go up Independence Pass, and it was the year we had lots of avalanches and snow, and it was closed, and they actually plowed it special for us so that we could go through, because it would have been a nightmare to not. So that's CDOT's role. And they can be really helpful. The other problem with the Forest Service, so like for a road ride, they permit, like the sides of the road, the pullouts. So you do, but the trouble is finding out what is Forest Service and what is not. So that if you use a pullout, it belongs to CDOT, then it doesn't belong to Forest Service, because Forest Service can be expensive, but they really try to work with bike tours in terms of the cost. So the best thing is this is the route to send to CSP. Forest Service, this is the route. These are what we're thinking. Do you see any Forest Service land in there, so that you can kind of then, they kind of highlight it and you can limit. There's like no map. I mean, it's no maps. We really need a map that says, I mean, who knows what's county and what's not. So, and Bill, for your route, have you talked to the Indian reservation?
Not yet. So our route goes,
Okay.
it's kind of a similar thing, but yeah, we need to talk to, I think it's a Ute Indian reservation.
It is the Ute. I will get some, I'll see if I have the names. They're really tough.
Oh, really?
And so you want as much contact with anyone that goes to an Indian reservation. Each one has, but they were hit extremely hard with COVID down in the Ute reservation.
Hmm.
So they may still have a full mandate. I'm not sure where they're at.
Okay, yeah, if you have any contact, that'd be great.
So anybody else have, Aaron, are you based, Aaron, in Phoenix?
I am, yes.
So do you have problems permitting here?
Well, to be honest, I haven't permitted any of our races up there. I'm actually kind of just here as an information gathering. We currently don't have a Colorado RD. So I got the email, but I was also elected as the person to sit in today to just gather information to pass
Okay.
on to our owner. I do have a comment or suggestion maybe, and I don't know if anyone on the call has familiarity with CalTopo. It's a website. You can also download it to your phone, of course, like everything else today, but it has filters. It's a map navigation website. And like just similar to your Google Maps, it has different filters that you can look at various pieces of land. And there is one that is land ownership. So you can actually click on that filter that will show you BLM versus forest versus personal private property, city property.
Perfect.
So it's CalTopo, CalTopo. And it's a great, you can actually, I mean, from there, I mean, we often start our new course process with that. If we know, a certain area that we're trying to build a new race, you can actually drag and drop a course basically along trails, along roads, along whatever. It'll give you all your elevation. It'll give you all of anything that you would want for the actual course before you go out and just start blindly riding to try and link a trail or a road together. You can actually put it together on your map and then, download it to your phone so you can actually follow that as you go for a ride.
That is a great thing. I will get a link and send it out with the recording. I was looking at my phone, have also used, and it's really funny, it's a hunting thing, which is not my thing, but Onyx, ONX.
Okay.
It's something I've used, and it does give you like personal names. So when I'm not in the Pawnee grasslands or in the Eastern Plains, it's been really helpful in terms of finding private ownership too. But there's a cost to it that is, I found, very prohibitive. Not to mention it's about hunting, which just not dirt bag. I will send both those links because that is helpful. Anyone else might have permitting?
Yeah, Dee, this is Janet. I would just say something, a little something about the Park Service. If anyone ever has the occasion to ride through National Park Service lands, I'm leading a tour in a couple weeks in southeastern Arizona, and we're going to go through Saguaro National Park which is split on a west and east. And I would just want to let people know, if you're not already aware, each park is sort of run as its own fiefdom by the superintendent. And so it'll be different for different things. So I kind of wanted to do a special use permit, and I talked to somebody at the park and they said, oh yeah, because it's not a competition, a race, a time trial, a qualifying event, a for-profit training program. That's a good, use the special use permit, which I felt like, oh yay, because that was, I can't remember, like 5 pages of filling out a form and writing all kinds of stuff, as opposed to the commercial use permit, which was 13 pages. So it took a lot of hoops. I did get the permit. The funny thing was they wound up charging me the same as the commercial use permit, which we didn't really care about. We just wanted to have the permit. But in case any of you, go through National Park Service lands, that's a whole nother ball of wax. And just know that you'll work closely, have patience and work with somebody there, so.
Great. Well, great. So if people don't have any more, I think that the next step is for me to send you the big document. I think maybe I'll send it with a little bit of a questionnaire of what would make permitting easier for you, other than we all know the cost can be prohibitive. I don't think people, and I know that races have this problem, and I know Lance Panaguti and I talk about it a lot. And just get some solid feedback so that when we reach out to CDOT, we have something more constructive. And if there's anyone that would like to kind of partner with me, that would be great. I love doing my large Excel spreadsheets and things. So the other thing, and so the next topic, which Katie mentioned, which I think is huge, is, we used to have in the old days of like 2019, we used to have like bike shops. Every aid station had a bike shop. They were really eager to come out. They set up, and it's a real struggle to find bike shops that will do that now, and to do the traveling in some cases. And I think that, they're having trouble keeping mechanics, which I'm not quite understanding, but there seems to be a lot of people that need work. But I think after COVID, some people just in the industry were like, it's too risky a business to stay in. So what is everyone doing about mechanics out there? And what are some solutions that we might come up with?
I know with Ride the Rockies, oh, sorry, somebody else.
No, go ahead.
I was just saying with Ride the Rockies, we had a couple independent mechanics that traveled with us who just did whatever. We paid them to come along the ride. It was an expense. We didn't have time to allocate inventory. We bought inventory like tires and tubes and chains and different things. And we tried our best to recoup some of those expenses via just a square count on the road. I mean, there's profit to be made for those guys, but it was impossible to get bike shops to want to come out. They just didn't have resources to come along the ride. With Colorado's Ride, we're using a couple of bike shops that are local to Pagosa and Durango that are interested, but we're resident there for 3 days, so it's easier. We don't have to have as much roving mechanical help. But I think independents are out there. We worked with VeloFix and a couple of those other kinds of mobile people as well for Ride the Rockies, but they're so busy. It's just I don't know if that's a solution. And then sales tax was a little bit of a problem too, as you went from county to county, and each had a different requirement and accountability on that. So that was another challenge. So that's where if you can use a local store who's already got the sales tax permit, that makes it pretty nice. But when you have independents who may not carry a statewide sales tax, they have to, have each county. It's a little bit of a problem. So unless the ride wants to incur that expense as goodwill, whether it's maybe tubes or you get sponsors to do it or something like that, can get a little problematic. So I don't have a great solution. I just sharing what we did do.
Katie, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I mean, we've just been talking about this so much this year because, as you said, it used to be so easy just to call our last year's shops and say, are you in for another year? And they'd say yes. And now we don't really have the staff, or we'll get back to you closer to, and then we're a month out and we don't have all of our stations filled. And so we were short last year. And thank you, Chris, so much. Were you, Chris, with Elevation Cycles? Is that? Yeah. So I think you guys were a new partner to us last year, and we were so grateful. And so I'd be curious what value you guys see, or what would be more valuable. Is it just kind of a staffing issue for these shops, or would it be better to actually pay? Because right now we're just they're considered sponsors. We do offer a lodging, but wondering what else we can offer shops, or if it's more just they just don't have the availability at all.
Yeah, it's a spot. It's a real spot. So the shops is, and I'm not with that business anymore. They were purchased last year,
Okay.
um, which was why I'm here. One of the reasons, but all the shops, it's kind of like service industry, specialized service industries in general having trouble staffing. So they're having trouble staffing up just for their regular hours, and then let alone making that commitment to do event support. It really takes finding that shop that's got the mentality of community involvement, which is it's special people, right? It's kind of those people who really understand this long-term ROI. It's really hard to provide a short-term, impact for that business. So it's finding that right person who's going, yeah, this 10 years from now, these people are gonna remember I was there, kind of thing. And it's an awesome event, and it's really a big motivator for the employees who are there. I could see that with all the guys that I was with on that day. And it's that level of interaction with athletes and participants, especially when there's a cause-based ride like some of you guys are doing. But it's finding that right voice, or that you're having the right voice with the right person at a shop to buy into that. And so they're in a tough spot though financially right now, especially with the downturn of sales and the pinch of not being able to hire people. So yeah, it's funny. My first thought was what Bill said about the mobile shops, and maybe finding a way that they can make it a slam dunk for them, that you guys, that it's just thinking out loud, right? But how to get that on their calendars months and months in advance, as this is a weekend they're going to make money. Like if they can count on that, then maybe we can get them booked in. But it's tough. I'm sure they're understaffed as well.
But the reality is they don't make money.
Yeah,
I mean, the
then it's
hardcore reality is that they're not making money out there, especially I mean the multi-day tours, they don't. So that's part of it. But for the charity rides, they think about it. I did talk to Full Cycle and Boulder. I had a big conversation with them last year, and they, again, it's the same. They don't have the staff, blah blah blah. And I'm like, well, what is it we need to do? I said, could it be that? I mean, part of it is, I'm sorry, like we shouldn't have to be fixing bikes out there. Things happen, and those are the bikes. But some people, like their bikes they just don't tune up their bikes. And so, I mean, they're going out there with bikes that need more care. That's not everybody, but there is some. And the expectation is like, oh, well, there'll just be a mechanic there. And so one thing we might do is reset that expectation that, there'll be supplies at all aid stations to fix flats, plenty of tubes and pumps and let you fix your flat, and discounts at the bike shop so that they could actually go in and get their bike tuned up. And that the people that do have their bike tuned up, they should get a little maybe special treatment because they're not riding, something that is, or that they don't have a tube, or, that they don't know how to fix a tire. I mean, there is that whole issue.
And actually that might be part of the part of the pitch to the shops could be a really deliberate plan to drive people into the shops to get their bikes worked on before the event day. So they're seeing, they could potentially see some business bump before the event that could help them justify the loss they're going to take by going out to the event. And then you would, knock on wood, have fewer mechanicals on the day of as well. But
Deirdre, a couple of thoughts on that. One is our first aid station is at the REI flagship store, and so they're happy to bring their mechanics out of the store. So if you can locate aid stations either at or adjacent to bike shops, that's a very effective thing to do. The second thing is we put together a package of rights and benefits, like Chris was kind of just talking about, certain number of social media posts, ways to drive our cyclists to their stores. We don't do packet distribution at the stores anymore. That used to be a way to drive them to the stores. We don't. They have to come to us the day before the ride because it was just too much of a shit show. Oh, I used one of those words to try to get it out there and then get the packets back for the idiots who said they'd pick it up and then didn't. So I'd say offer them a package, treat them like a sponsor. offer them a package of rights and benefits in exchange for the in-kind relationship. That they're not paying you a cash fee, but they're providing you an in-kind service, can be a very effective way to get more bike shops involved.
We do.
Well, and I know still do packet pickups, but if you're gonna do a packet pickup, they have to come out on the route because it is such a pain. Erica, what about Bike MS?
Yeah, I was just going to jump in and say we do something similar with a package. We offer kind of like it's more like just a loose kind of contract, and we offer like 6 or 7 different options. Like, please partner with us, and you can offer us like 15% discount at your store. You can we do like prize vouchers at the end of our ride based on fundraising levels, and so if you reach a certain level, people have the option to choose a bike shop voucher, and they can go into the participating shops and spend money in there, and we essentially pay 60% of whatever the voucher is for back to the shop. So that's been kind of really helpful with our bike shop partners, and the fact that they know that people are going to be coming to them post-event. We have a lot of people who choose that option. One thing that one of the rides in our Bike MS is a series across the country. So some of them require riders to show up with a sticker on their bike or something from a participating bike shop saying that it's been inspected. So in order to cut some costs on route, everyone needs to get their bike inspected within a certain time frame of the ride, and show up with their sticker, which has its pros and cons, right? And then like Bruce was saying, when we're doing our bike shop kind of outreach, we really try to take a look at where exactly our route goes and where shops are in location to like our rest stops or big spots where we can go through. Like, for example, we have in Erie, we go right through, or Niwot, I'm sorry, we go through Niwot. We have Niwot cycles on board, but they're right on the corner of where we kind of turn to a rest stop. So they are 100% in because they get that visibility from 1,000 riders coming right by their shop. So I would suggest, like Bruce was saying, look right on your route, look what's in close proximity to your rest stops, and see if there are any shops that are willing to come out.
I wanted to share one thing. I don't know if you guys know Marcel Van Garderen and his moto group. They will, I was looking to maybe employ them for our ride, and they do have some mechanical capabilities. So like he does carry, or can, depending on how you want to contract with him. He has actually a certified mechanic himself. He had to be for the Tour de California, but so they can carry some supplies, a floor pump, for instance, and tubes, and just kind of get people rolling along the side of the road. So that is an option to think about if you use his group. Just wanted to throw that out.
They do have motorcycles. I'm not sure Marcel does, that carry tires as well. They can be pretty equipped because they do. So you have Mark Nemec. There's a bunch of them like that. Maybe build that resource. One thing I've wondered, and I don't know what your thoughts are, you have some, I think Bikes Together teaches mechanics, Lucky Bikes, where they're teaching young kids like a skill to become a bike mechanic. Like this is their, and I always thought that might be a good thing, that if they have like their senior level kids out there at an aid station. I don't know. What do you think about it? I mean, I would do it because I would not be out there with a bike that needs major repairs. But any thoughts on that?
I think it's great. I mean, we kind of did that before. I mean, I think if you have 1 or 2 really good mechanics and you can fill in with people like that, or somebody like a Marcel that's just really there for tires and tubes and basic stuff. And if somebody needs to be sagged forward, if they have something major like a crank or a new chain or something like that, I think you can triage it a little bit on the route and use different levels of skill.
I like that idea too. I just would say generally we've been doing more looking into youth on our route, and because we used to not allow any volunteers under 18, and we looked more into why that is. I know Summit County has some restrictions about it, but and your insurance can. But what we came down to is we can have youth on route as long as it's not, you know, a pull off on the side of the road or in a highly trafficked area or path. So we are going to allow, as long as they have adult supervision, people under 18 on route in that kind of capacity. So that's just another thing to think about.
I think that's a really good point and kind of segues into kind of volunteers and staffing. Are people having issues with that?
Yeah, that's kind of one of the reasons we looked into that, because there are so many like high school groups who are looking for volunteer hours. And if we can, you know, use them, and not as marshals along the route, but in other capacities. We've been looking into that.
And the high school teams might be a good resource for that. They've got volunteer hours, as far as I understand, each high school team. And some of those are pretty big groups, like the goal is like 110 kids kind of thing. Like you can get a lot of manpower.
Yeah.
Kid power.
I think their volunteer requirement is at the races.
My understanding is they can do offsite stuff because we've actually had them help at Lee's cross course. And that it's near the school, but it was definitely a separate land. So it's worth a call to Kate probably.
So I know that most high school seniors now have to do community service or, you know, in order to graduate. So it might be something, reaching out to some of the schools nearby that need those hours. And I think it's a lot of hours, to be honest. I don't know, my boys go to Kent, so I don't know. They have to do a lot of hours. So that might be another problem. Solution, sorry.
Another thought I had along the lines of volunteers is we have a form on our website where people can fill out if they're interested in volunteer opportunities. And I get inquiries, you know, every week, every other week, often more interest than I can support kind of daily. What I have like one volunteer that helps me with some office projects, but I get more interest than I can really support. So if we were to come up with like a living document of like all the current events that are looking for support, I could send that out to folks when they reach out to me, and then they can just have, okay, if you're interested, here's a list of events, here's who you contact, and then they can then from my email reach out to whatever event they think, you know, is near them or interests them, and I can kind of just be like the in-between of like passing off some of those inquiries, if that would be helpful.
I know for start finish locations in the past, actually when I was with the MS Society, so I guess that's been a long time ago, AmeriCorps were really great for like start finish locations and stuff. So if you find the local AmeriCorps, and the other group is the Mormons that come through, you know, the Mormon group. You know, I mean, they're all
The missionaries, the missionaries, the guys with on the bicycle.
The guys that come by with, you know, they wear their black pants, white shirts.
Elder Tom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they've been great. They were great in the office, but they come out. I mean, you know, I would like them to. So, and then the other type of group, which is younger, more in some of the ranch areas, is, I'm going to say the FAA, but it's the FFA, Future Farmers of America. And they have big groups. And these kids, you know, they work hard. And they're also, most of them, very technically inclined. So that's another group. So maybe I'll start a Google Doc and we can just put some groups out there, some big groups like AmeriCorps and to reach out to as well. So it's all tough. Running events is tough. But we have some good ideas going. So then the big question, which Erica had, and so it's turning road riders into gravel. Gravel A has some less permitting issues. Although I can tell you in the Pawnee grasslands, you got to be careful of those ranchers that just own all the land, because you have one that owns acres and acres and they're cranky, you're in trouble. I did come across that, and he still calls me. It's safer. There tends to be less traffic, not always, but mostly. But when we say gravel's kind of not the right word for it, because not gravel, it's dirt. Like, there's hard packed dirt. They're not doing technical mountain biking. They're riding on dirt. Some of them may be a little bit more gritty and gravelly, but I think like for, say, the MS-150 or some of those rides, I can say from Ride the Rockies, which, we have more dirt roads in Colorado than we have paved. And they're beautiful roads, and they kind of show you beautiful things. Road cyclists get like chest. They just like, oh my God, I can't go on dirt. And the thing is, if you have the road with bad chloride like a week before, I'll tell you that road is better than most of the paved roads. And most of the counties will work with you on that. And it makes it a great ride. So they'll go out and they'll check their gravel ride like a month out. And you're like, well, a month out, I don't care what it looks like a month out. Like, they're not going to do it for a while. So again, it goes to that, the expectations of cyclists. But some of them, they just don't get that how easy it is to switch a road bike to, with different tires or something. And it's how do they switch it? They're like, well, I don't have a gravel bike. Well, you don't necessarily need a gravel bike. You don't necessarily, cross bikes are great. And in some cases you do, but not always. So it's really hard to educate some of these roadies, I have found. They just can't seem to make the switch. So with Ride the Rockies, before I left, we started doing just a little bit more dirt, and the roads were great. And they were getting more accustomed to it. I left, and now they don't do it anymore. So, but it was more that I'm going to train you to like dirt. I am going to, right, Janet? I'm by hook or by crook. I was going to train them, and I worked hard to make sure those roads were really good. On Venus to Miles last year, there was a little tiny section of dirt to a wonderful aid station. Oh my God, it was so great. And the road was fine. And so 50% of them went to the aid station, 50% of them stopped and were just like in an all-out panic about the dirt. And I don't know how we switch them up, because I think, so anyone have any suggestions about that? I found it a struggle.
I don't have any solutions at this point, but I think for us, we're seeing the trend starting to shift in that our folks aren't feeling safe on the road, so they're finding other avenues, right? So like gravel's an option, mountain bikes an option, all these other things. And so how do we, generally speaking, all of our rides are extremely safe. Like you rarely hear of something that happens pretty significant on any of these rides. So it's not the rides themselves that our people are worried about, it's the training before the ride. So I guess my concern is, how do we market to our community? How do we get in our community and say like, you know, road is still great, gravel is still great. How can we do both really well together? And I think that's kind of what you were saying, but it's really like keeping them in the fold, even when they're trying to find something they feel is more safe.
Right.
I just think it's tricky. I mean, we had dirt last year on Ride the Rockies and it went pretty well, but it was a windy day and it got a little dusty and people were a little whiny about that. I think you're just, I don't know. I don't think there's a great answer. I think what Dee said is absolutely right in terms of getting the mag chloride out and doing some of the things to make those roads are awesome when they get that on there. There's no problem. But I think, and out of staters really don't understand that at all. And they get freaked out, the thought of dirt. I don't know. I don't have a good answer, but I do like the idea of trying to get more mixed terrain and educating people on bikes that you can have the same bike for two different things pretty easily, actually. But I don't know what the answer is to get that inertia going.
Well, I always wish that, you know, they're always pushing gravel bikes, and I get that. Like, it's much better to sell a bike, but great if like the Schwalbe tires and the Continental and, you know, could do a little push and say in bike shops and say, you know, you don't need a whole new bike. I know you have 6 of them, but so
Yeah,
I
dear,
think,
we're planning. We had a number of cyclists who brought time trial bikes on the Denver Century Ride, which is absolutely not safe for most of the road ride, and several of our accidents they'd go over their handlebars when they're trying to stop quickly. So we're going to be adding some information on our website about appropriate bikes for the ride, and that might be what other people can do too. That you'll find these bikes the most appropriate for the sort of terrain that you're going to be on. We could all do that depending on what sort of terrain we're going on to.
I think
Or
it's
even
great.
going so far as to saying like for me, I have a cyclocross bike. I used to race. I don't much anymore, but like you can change out your wheels on your cyclocross bike easily,
Right.
you know? So like, I don't have to have 3 different bikes to do road, cyclocross, even gravel. Like you can just switch some wheels out and you're good to go on one frame. So it might even be something as simple as that.
Yeah, and maybe that's another way, like if we get bike shops, thanks Bruce, if we partner with bike shops, maybe they can say, oh, you're doing we're a partner with MS 150 and there's going to be a little bit of dirt. Here's some things, like every shop, like, you know, here's some things you could need that you can get at this bike shop, or this bike shop will help you make sure your bike is ready, and, you know, tire pressure. And, you know, I'm not the most technical person, so excuse me if my lingo is wrong. Something like that could maybe work, you know, to help. Because I think we are going to see more and more of that because, and, you know, I mean, road cycling is declining for a lot of reasons. And part of it is that, you know, people don't feel safe. I mean, God knows. I don't, but I'm not very agile, you know, but it is a, I think, a issue. Although I agree with Erica that all of our rides, like the safest thing you can do is do an organized ride, you know, because there's so many people watching out for you, you know. Sorry, I had to check, make sure they weren't setting my electricity off. So the other question that came up, and he didn't join the call, but I did want to touch on it because we'll set up the recording, is John Bush, who does Mad Race out in Grand Junction, runs some really fun, fabulous cyclocross races, and some everyone, some other great things. And he's been getting calls about people with disabilities. Has anyone else had that issue? and how to deal with it. I know I put on an adaptive cyclocross race, and I'll pass this on to him. Is I always had like a couple key people that were adaptive riders come out and check out a course, or I had some military people that did actually Denver Century Ride. And so I had them check it out. I gave them the information so that they could check it out, or I would meet them so that they could flag like this is problematic. But then there's another great resource for that would be Crested Butte's Adaptive Sports Center. So I'll make sure everybody has that contact information. We did with Ride the Rockies, they were a big team out there, and it was great to have them out there. So, I mean, obviously it adds, I always had to have, I just put it anywhere because you don't know about volunteers, but adaptive porta potties.
Mhm.
But adaptive porta potties are bigger, they're better to use. So I was always like, oh, I'll just throw it, so at least it's, you know, so there's that. So I will pass that information on. And if anybody else, you know, like in gravel, and if you have a adaptive cyclist doing gravel or mountain, like Aaron might, and I had one out at Pawnee gravel, you know, they're pretty gritty. They're, you know, they're just gritty. They've had different challenges. So, you know, they'll tell you if something is not right and what you might be able to do. It's my. Travis, you've been very quiet. Anything to add before we all say goodbye?
No, nothing for me. I think it was really helpful. I know one of the biggest things, just kind of touch on our event, Pikes Peak. It's the only time cyclists can ride it without cars. And I know that's the biggest feedback back to the just whole safety of road racing. Is so many people are appreciative that it is one of the only opportunities to take on Pikes Peak without having to worry about cars and watching out. So I know that is a big plus whenever, you know, you can provide that to riders. And then to your point as well, we always have ADA accessible porta potties as well, just in case. In my time here, I've never had any adaptability or disability just because of the course itself, and the nature of it is pretty difficult, but we always have that just in case. And as you said, sometimes it's just bigger and nicer of a restroom as well.
I will be sending out the tape. It's good to see all these faces and to talk and the new faces. And certainly if you have anything that you want me to reach out, the list of, probably have a list of, I can't, very long list of event directors from all sources. I really just invite the Colorado ones, although Aaron, I know your group is based in Arizona. I knew that before, and we have some groups from Wyoming and Utah. But what I will do is send it out, the recording and some notes and some of the resources that we talked about. Don't hesitate to email me if you have any things that you're looking for and that I can push you towards someone. The other thing is I'll probably add a little survey so that I know all the questions you want to drill Chris McGee with. So it's not just the questions I want to drill him, but I did talk to Micah about it last night. Micah and I both have similar questions. So, you know, what is it that Bicycle Colorado can do for all of us? And, you know, really so that as they're shaping, they're hearing our voice versus their voice.
I had just a comment question, really more of a comment, something to think about. I had a really interesting experience in Durango early in December. They put together a little, kind of almost like a little convention where they invited people who were doing events in the Durango Four Corners area to come to Durango. And at the same time, They invited people from Forest Service, BLM, CSP, all
Mhm.
the different agencies, and it was like a meet and greet for all the different people you would interact with if you're trying to do an event in Durango. And I can tell you, it's paid off in spades just having a personal connection with those folks. Get on the phone and talk about the permit or talk about whatever. But I would love to aspire. I know this would be a huge lift, but someday have kind of a meeting for the state where we could interact with the people at CDOT, with the people at the Forest Service on a more statewide level and get to know them in a personal way, ask questions, have a forum, have debates, have whatever, a presentation. I don't know who would put that on. It could be a thing with Bicycle Colorado and our group and whoever else. And it was a very, very good experience. And we learned a lot because everybody was able to give a presentation and just a lot of Q&A, and you built a lot of relationships, and it's really helped our ride a lot.
Yeah, and the Denver Special Events Office hold a couple of them if you're doing special events in Denver, and I know that's been helpful. And CBEC did hold a conference, kind of a small conference about some things, but it has occurred to me that is something that we need to invite everyone and actually have a conference. And the other thing is kind of interesting, Bike Tour Network used to have one, and they've kind of gone out of, I don't know, they just don't function anymore. And I think there's a lot of people that could benefit from that. So it's definitely been on my mind to do that kind of lift. Certainly, we'd need a group to kind of a committee to do it, but there's the fiscal end of it. But I think that could happen. Certainly, there could be a lot of sponsors for that.
Yeah.
So certainly, Bicycle Colorado could play a role. So I think it's good. Maybe we could have it down in Colorado Springs with the Olympic Museum. I don't know why. It's just been on my mind, you guys. I just want to have a party at the Olympic Museum. I've not been there, but I went to the one in Switzerland, and I had a good party there. I want to have another one. Well, listen, thank you. Always a pleasure. And
Hey,
keep in touch. Brad, did you have something to share?
Yeah, I haven't really contributed a whole bunch, but one of the things that we were talking about was issues and problems getting mechanics. So I have not been operating for a long time on the level that many of you have as directors. Okay, I'm an operations technical problem solving type of person. One thing I know about mechanics, and I do understand a challenge that a bike shop would have, but just throwing this out there, there is a massive amount of untapped experience. So a lot of cyclists that, like we were referring to, have multiple bikes. There are a lot of people out there who can be an absolute appropriate technician for a ride. You can't solve all the problems on the road, but like in Summit County, where I used to reside, I can probably name quickly 12 people who are not shop people, but have worked in shops and have top tier technical acumen that could be. So I'm not sure how to market for that, but I think going outside the shops could be incredible. Like, I'm not a shop guy anymore, but I was recruited. I was flown out to an event to be a mechanic for a one-day event. So thinking outside the box and maybe marketing for non-shop people who can bring their tools. Okay, that's one thing. Also, here in Colorado Springs, we have Barnett Bicycle Institute, which is outside of UBI in Oregon. They're the premier, the premier bicycle technical school, and reaching out to them and maybe having an advertisement there. So people come from all over the country, but they do their thing, get their certification, but that could be a resource where people could potentially sign up for for events.
I think that's great. It's good. Harry, you got any last minute things you'd like to contribute?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Aaron?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you for having this call, though.
And we'll keep chatting, and I will send it out. All right. Well, thank you all.
Thanks, Deirdre.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Good to see you.
Good seeing you too, Janet. You're a bright spot always.
And nice meeting you folks.
All right, bye.